There's something off about them. You've felt it in your bones. You sit across the dinner table from someone you've known your whole life. And yet, something about them feels empty, hollow, almost like they're wearing a human mask. They mimic emotions, copy what they've seen, but there's no real feeling behind it, no light in the eyes, no warmth in the heart. They smile when they're supposed to. They frown when the moment calls for it. But if you really look, if you pay attention, you'll see it. There's nothing behind their eyes. This script isn't about pointing fingers without thought. It's about awakening your discernment. Because yes, some people in your life might be physically alive but spiritually dead. And if you're not careful, their emptiness will drain you. You see, being soulless isn't always some dramatic horror story. It's much quieter than that, much subtler. It hides in plain sight. It hides in families. It hides in friendships. It hides in the people you're told to trust the most. So let's make something very clear. This is not about paranoia. This is not about judging those who struggle emotionally. This is about learning to recognize the absence of soul and protecting yourself from it. Because if you've ever wondered why being around certain people makes you feel exhausted, drained, or even unseen, the answer might be this. And by the end of this video, you'll be able to spot the difference between someone who's wounded and someone who has chosen to stay soulless. You'll stop confusing toxic patterns for just how people are. You'll stop making excuses for spiritual void, and you'll finally start listening to that inner voice that's been screaming the truth to you all along. Let's dive into the 9 hidden signs of soulless beings and how to spot them, even in your own family. If this already feels like something you've sensed but couldn't explain, stay with me. This could be the clarity you've been searching for your whole life. Sign 1. They copy personality, but feel like nothing. Soulless people don't have a real self. That's the first thing you need to understand. They're not rooted in anything. No essence, no identity that grew from pain, experience, or depth. What they have instead is a copy, a performance, a collection of stolen mannerisms and secondhand emotions. They watch people. They study you. They learn what makes others real, and then they mimic it. You've seen this before and didn't know how to describe it. You might have a family member who always seems to shift personalities depending on who they're around. Around your mother, they're gentle and quiet. Around your uncle, they suddenly become loud and crass. Around you, they pretend to love what you love, but their energy never feels authentic. There's a reason for that. When someone has no soul connection, no rooted self, they become a mirror. They reflect whatever you want to see. But if you scratch just below the surface, there's nothing there, no core, no true feeling. Carl Jung once said, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely." But these people never accepted themselves, because there was nothing to accept in the first place. They bypassed the journey of individuation. They never faced their shadow. They never allowed life to shape them into something real. So instead, they built a mask, and that mask is sticky. If you're not careful, it'll attach itself to you. Soulless people are attracted to souls that shine, to hearts that are open, to those who feel deeply because they can't do that themselves. And when you're around them, you might feel flat, numb, dull, like your own energy is slowly being siphoned. That's because it is. Their presence drains you not by what they say, but by what they lack. They are a vacuum, an emptiness pretending to be personality. And when you try to get close to them, you realize something strange. You don't actually know who they are because they don't know either. They've spent their entire lives performing humanity, but deep down, they are empty. Have you ever had someone in your life who seemed to play the role of a caring person, but deep down you knew it was just a mask? Keep listening. The next sign reveals how these people react when real emotions are involved, and it's chilling. Sign 2. They don't feel empathy. They fake it. Here's the unsettling truth. Some people pretend to care. They say the right words. They mimic the right facial expressions. They put a hand on your shoulder when you're crying, but something in your gut tells you it's all an act. And your gut is right. You're not imagining it. Soulless beings don't feel empathy, they perform it. Because empathy requires connection, and that's something they lack. They can read the behavior of empathy, the tears, the tone, the silence, but they don't actually feel it in their body. Their mirror neurons are off. Their heart doesn't resonate with your pain. They just know what a normal human is supposed to do, and they copy it. And if you test that empathy, if you bring up something vulnerable, something real, something raw, they go blank, they say, "Oh, that's too bad." Or they give a smile that never reaches their eyes. Sometimes they even flip it back on themselves. You tell them you lost someone, and somehow the conversation shifts to their struggles, their day, their inconvenience. As if your grief was just a cue in their script. This isn't just narcissism, this is something colder, emptier, because even narcissists can feel shame or fear. Soulless people? They feel nothing. They've lost the thread of what makes us human, the ability to sit in pain with someone without needing to fix it or turn it into a performance. Carl Jung once said, "People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul." Soulless people don't just avoid their own soul. They've buried it under so many masks. It no longer even breathes. They might volunteer. They might show up at the hospital. They might cry at a funeral. But watch them closely. The tears are dry, the timing is off. The emotion feels mechanical, because it is. And if you're someone with deep empathy, someone who feels everything, being around them will feel confusing. You'll question yourself. You'll say, "Why does this feel so hollow?" It's because it is hollow. Empathy is not just a behavior, it's a resonance, a soul-to-soul vibration, and with these people, there's only static. Have you ever noticed someone cry at the right time but feel absolutely nothing in their presence? That eerie sense that their sadness was just a scene in a play? Stick with me, because the next sign is even more disturbing. Sign 3. Their words say love, but their energy says control. Some people say they love you, but it never feels like love. It feels like pressure. It feels like you're walking on eggshells, constantly adjusting, performing, shrinking, just to keep the peace. Why? Because for the soulless, love is a mask, and underneath that mask is control. They say things like, "I'm only doing this because I care. You wouldn't survive without me. I just want what's best for you," but the energy behind their words is sharp, cold, possessive. They don't love you. They own you. To them, love is not about freedom, truth, or growth. It's about dominance. And when you step out of line, when you assert yourself, when you express your soul, they punish you. Not always with fists, but with guilt. Silence. Disapproval, withholding affection. They'll withdraw emotionally and let you feel that freeze, just so you come crawling back. These people don't want connection. They want control over your identity. They want to be the reason you smile, cry, fear, and beg. And they'll keep you in that psychological cage for years, as long as you mistake their concern for love. Let me be clear. Love doesn't make you shrink. Love makes you expand. If someone says, "I love you," but your nervous system is screaming, "I'm not safe," listen to your body. Soulless beings will often be family members who claim everything they do is for you, while draining your light, silencing your truth, and rewriting your story. You'll find yourself doubting your instincts, second-guessing your decisions, apologizing when you didn't do anything wrong. That's not love. That's spiritual theft. And the cruelest part? They'll accuse you of being ungrateful, of not appreciating their sacrifice, of abandoning them when you finally set a boundary, because in their world your freedom is a threat. Carl Jung said, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely." Soulless people never did, and so they can't allow you to. They'll call your authenticity selfish. They'll call your strength rebellion. They'll use their version of love as a leash. And when you try to run, they'll tighten it. Don't fall for the script. Love never feels like a cage, and if it does, it's not love. It's manipulation dressed in emotion. Have you ever questioned someone's love because it always seemed to cost you your voice, your peace, or your identity? You're not imagining things. In the next sign, we expose one of the most dangerous traits of the soulless, and it hides in plain sight. Sign 4. They thrive in chaos and make sure you never have peace. Peace is a threat to the soulless, because when things are calm, when you are calm, you can finally hear your own thoughts, and that's the last thing they want. So they manufacture chaos. They provoke arguments out of nowhere. They bring up old wounds just to twist the knife. They pit family members against each other like it's a game, whispering lies behind closed doors, planting doubts and watching it all burn. Why? Because chaos gives them power. When everyone's confused, stressed, and triggered, they get to position themselves as the one in control, the one who knows what's going on, the one who suddenly becomes needed in the mess they secretly created. They become the puppet master. And the worst part? They do it with a smile. They'll say things like, "I'm just being honest. I didn't mean it that way. I'm just trying to help." But what they're really doing is keeping you emotionally exhausted. Because when you're too busy managing their storms, you have no energy left to build your own life. Carl Jung wrote, "In all chaos there is a cosmos, in all disorder a secret order." But with soulless people, the disorder is deliberate. It's a smokescreen to keep you disconnected from your center. You'll notice patterns. As soon as something good happens in your life, a promotion, a new relationship, a breakthrough, they'll do something to sabotage the joy. A passive-aggressive comment, a sudden crisis, a mysterious illness that demands your attention. Every time you try to move forward, they pull you back into the fire. It's not a coincidence. It's a pattern of psychological warfare. They can't stand your light because it exposes their darkness. And so they'll cover your peace with noise, because as long as you're drowning in drama, you'll never realize the truth. You were never broken. You were just surrounded by people who feared your healing. That's what soulless beings do. They keep you running in circles, so you never walk your own path. And if you dare to detach, if you step out of the cycle, they'll call you cold, uncaring, or selfish. But let's be honest, who benefits from the chaos? Who always ends up at the center of the storm? It's them, and it always has been. So if peace feels like a distant memory, if your nervous system only knows tension, take a look at who's sitting quietly while everyone else spins, because the one who enjoys the fire the most is often the one who lit the match. Have you ever noticed how certain people always stir things up when life starts feeling good? That's not bad luck. That's manipulation. In the next section, we'll go even deeper, because sometimes the most soulless thing a person can do is wear your face while hiding their own. Sign 5. Their mask is perfect. Until you look into their eyes, they smile at the right time. They say the right things. They play the perfect role. The caring parent, the selfless sibling, the loving spouse, but something doesn't add up. You can't quite explain it. But when you look into their eyes, something's missing, because you can fake kindness. You can mimic love. But the eyes? The eyes never lie. Soulless people wear masks so well they could win an Oscar. But masks are made of behavior. The soul lives in expression. And when there's no soul, there's no light behind the gaze. Carl Jung once wrote, "The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. But with them, there's no transformation, no reaction, no real connection, just a void. You talk to them, and it feels like your words fall into a black hole. You share your joy, and it bounces off a wall. You express pain, and they either mimic sympathy or worse, they look bored, because empathy doesn't live in the mouth. It lives in the eyes, Have you ever had a conversation where you left feeling emptier than before? That's not by accident. Soulless people are experts at emotional echoing. They repeat what you say, nod at the right moments, but there's no warmth, no depth, no soul. They study people to imitate them. They know how to act like they care. They know the words that win trust. But what they don't have and can't fake is a presence that gives life. That's the difference. You feel seen around real people. You feel drained around the soulless. Because the soulless don't feed your spirit, they feed off it, and their eyes reveal the truth. You'll see it when they think no one's watching. In a moment of silence. In a second of stillness. A flicker of coldness. A shadow that wasn't part of the script. It slips out, and that's when your gut screams, something is wrong here, and you better believe that voice, because the soul knows what the mind tries to rationalize away. They'll say, you're overthinking. They'll say, I was just tired. They'll say, you're imagining things, but your spirit knows better. It's not just one odd glance. It's not just one cold moment. It's the consistency of emptiness. No matter what they say, what they give, or what mask they wear, if their eyes are void of empathy, warmth, and life, you are dealing with someone whose soul is either lost or never fully developed. And here's the scary part. They'll mirror you so well you'll start to question yourself. You'll think, maybe I'm being too harsh. Maybe they're just emotionally distant. Maybe I expect too much. No, you are not asking for too much. You are asking for something real, and they can't give that because they don't have it. So trust the silence between the words. Trust the chill behind the smile. And most of all, trust what their eyes reveal, because the eyes speak the language of the soul, and if there's nothing speaking back, run. Think of someone in your life who says all the right things, but something feels hollow. Have you ever looked them in the eyes and felt nothing? That's your warning signal. Next up, we'll uncover something even more dangerous. The soulless being who changes their shape to match your deepest wounds. Sign 6. They become who you need, until you need something real. Soulless people are not just manipulative. They're shapeshifters. And what makes them so dangerous is that they study your wounds like a map. They don't ask, who are you? They ask, what are you missing? They observe, they analyze, they listen to the tremble in your voice. They note what makes your eyes light up and what makes them go dim. And then, they become exactly what you've always wanted. If you longed for safety, they'll make you feel protected. If you craved praise, they'll flood you with flattery. If you needed emotional connection, they'll imitate intimacy so well, it feels like fate. But here's the truth. They don't become that person because they love you. They become that person so they can control you. It's not love, it's leverage. Carl Jung once said, people will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul. Soulless people don't just avoid their soul, they replace it with a strategy. They wear personas like armor. And the scariest part, they don't think they're lying. They believe the role while they play it. But the moment you start asking for something real, emotional availability, accountability, depth, that persona begins to crack. They withdraw, they lash out, they guilt trip you, because real connection requires a soul. And they never had one to begin with. At first, it's subtle. You share something vulnerable, and they dismiss it. You express a need, and suddenly you're too much. You try to get closer, and they turn ice cold. You start to feel crazy, because the person who once made you feel so understood now makes you feel invisible. And that's exactly how they control you. Through confusion. They create a false paradise, and when you fall in love with it, they slowly take it away. Then they blame you for the cracks. You'll start apologizing for things you never did, begging for attention you used to receive without effort, doubting your worth because you think you lost their love, but what you really lost was the illusion. They weren't showing you love. They were showing you a reflection of your deepest desire, so you would never leave. And the moment you become inconvenient, the moment you demand anything real, the mask slips. Sometimes it's with silence. Sometimes it's with cruelty. Sometimes it's with a quiet detachment so cold it cuts you like glass. You'll hear things like, "Why can't you just be happy with what we had? You're overthinking everything. You've changed." But they're not mourning the relationship. They're mourning the control. They didn't love you. They loved how much you loved the person they pretended to be. And when you ask for the real them, there's nothing there. Just a shell. Just a mask. Just the shadow of who you thought they were. This is why your heart feels like it's breaking in layers. Because you're grieving someone who never existed. So if someone shows up in your life, already knowing exactly how to complete you, be careful. Real love sees your wounds and holds space for healing. Soulless love sees your wounds and uses them for access. Guard your soul. Don't let someone become your dream, only to wake you up in a nightmare. Think about the person who once felt like your missing piece, and now feels like a stranger. Were they meeting your needs or mirroring your wounds? Reflect, because the next sign is even darker. It's not what they do, it's what they make you feel about yourself. Sign 7. You start to feel like you're the problem, even when you're bleeding. Here's how you know you've been touched by a soulless presence. You start apologizing for your own pain. You sit in rooms filled with people you love, and yet you feel like a ghost. You try to speak, and somehow it always turns into an argument. You set a boundary, and suddenly, you're the selfish one. It's like you're in a house of mirrors. Everything reflects back a twisted version of you. And after a while, you stop fighting. You start believing it. You think, maybe I am too sensitive. Maybe I do ask for too much. Maybe if I just shrink a little more, they'll love me again. Stop. This isn't love. This is erasure. Carl Jung warned us. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. What if the reason you feel like you're the problem is because someone made your entire identity revolve around them? Soulless people don't just want control of your behavior. They want control of your self-perception. Because if they can get inside your mind, they don't need to cage your body. You will do it for them. You'll monitor your tone. You'll second-guess every emotion. You'll carry their discomfort on your back and call it being a good person. But here's the brutal truth. You are not too much. You're just around people who give you too little. And when your soul cries out, when your boundaries rise like fire, they play the victim. Suddenly, you're attacking them. You're too emotional. You're always causing problems. And when you try to explain your pain, they get cold, dismissive, or worse, they turn it around. You're just being dramatic. Why can't you let go of the past? You're impossible to talk to. Eventually, you're not even sure what's real anymore. That's not an accident. That's gaslighting. You become the villain in a story they wrote. And worst of all, you start rewriting your own history to fit their version. You defend them to your friends. You isolate yourself so no one misunderstands them. You replay every conversation trying to find proof that you're not crazy. And you never find it. Because the madness didn't come from inside you. It was implanted. Soulless people are architects of confusion. They don't just break your heart. They warp your reality. You can be bleeding, crying, unraveling in front of them, and somehow you'll still be the one saying, "I'm sorry." That is how deep the programming goes. But let me say this clearly. If someone consistently makes you feel like you're the problem, while they take no accountability, give you no validation, and show you no empathy, you are not dealing with a flawed human. You are dealing with an empty one. The difference? A flawed human can say, "I hurt you, I see that, I'm sorry." A soulless person says, "You're too sensitive, you're imagining it." They don't mend wounds, they weaponize them. They don't listen, they deflect. They don't reflect, they project. And over time, you stop asking for what you need, because you've been conditioned to believe your needs are a burden. So let me remind you, Needing respect is not selfish. Wanting connection is not needy. Feeling pain is not weakness. If someone makes you feel like your humanity is a problem, it's because they have forgotten their own. Soulless people can't love you. They can only use you. Ask yourself this: have you been apologizing for your pain to someone who never once acknowledged it? Do you doubt your reality more around certain people? That's not love. That's psychological warfare. You owe it to yourself to break free. And in the next sign, we'll expose how these people often avoid all responsibility while projecting their darkness onto you. Sign 8. They never feel guilty. But make sure you do. There's a sick kind of magic that soulless people practice. They somehow commit the harm and then make you feel like the guilty one. You could catch them red-handed, lying, blaming, hurting someone, and still they'll spin a web so convincing you'll walk away thinking you were in the wrong. You'll find yourself saying sorry for how you reacted, not for what they actually did. This is no accident. Soulless beings have made an art form out of dodging guilt while shoving shame onto others. They don't feel remorse. They feel threatened by exposure. So the moment you shine a light on their behavior, they'll retreat, then retaliate. Sometimes it's silent treatment. Sometimes it's mockery. Sometimes it's playing the poor me card. They'll say things like, "I guess nothing I do is ever good enough for you. You always make me out to be the bad guy. You're too sensitive. I was just joking." But behind those words is a calculated message. How dare you make me look at myself? They hate self-reflection because they have no foundation for it. To reflect, you must have a self to look at. And when there's no soul behind the eyes, there's nothing but fear, ego, and manipulation. Carl Jung once said, "People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul." Soulless people take this to the extreme. They'll deny the undeniable, just to protect the illusion of innocence, and in the process, they'll paint you as the cruel one. You'll say, "You hurt me." They'll reply, "You're always so dramatic." You'll cry, they'll roll their eyes, you'll pull away, they'll tell everyone how cold you've become. They make themselves the victim of your boundaries, and before you know it, you're walking on eggshells again. You're measuring your words. You're double-checking your tone, you're over-explaining yourself. While they get away with emotional murder, they don't just avoid guilt. They actively transfer it. And the tool they use? Guilt tripping. They'll remind you of everything they've done for you. They'll act like you owe them kindness, silence loyalty. Even as they tear you down, they'll compare you to others. They'll say, "No one else has a problem with me." As if your pain is invalid unless it comes from a crowd. And if you try to leave, that's when the real guilt begins. They'll say you're abandoning them. They'll say you never cared. They'll remind you of every moment you laughed together, as if one smile cancels out 1,000 betrayals. And you'll sit there, torn. Because deep down, you want to believe they're good. You want to believe they'll change. But listen, carefully. Guilt is not a sign of love, it's a weapon. And in the hands of a soulless person, it can destroy you, because it turns your instincts into your enemy. It makes you question your conscience. It makes you betray yourself, just to keep the peace. But peace built on guilt is not peace. It's submission. And you don't owe anyone your silence just because they refuse to feel remorse. You don't have to hold on to the pain just because someone else won't pick up their part of it. You are not their trash bin. You are not their emotional punching bag. You are not their built-in forgiveness machine. Guilt is only useful when it leads to growth. With soulless beings, it only leads to control. So when someone never owns their wrongs, when they never say, "I'm sorry," unless it benefits them, when they twist your accountability into attack, run. Not because they're evil, but because they're empty. And the only thing emptiness knows how to do is pull you down into it. Think about this. When's the last time someone made you feel bad for something they did? Have you become the one carrying guilt that was never yours to hold? That's not empathy. That's manipulation. In the final sign, we'll talk about the chilling emptiness you feel when these people are around, and why your soul can feel the void behind their smiles. Sign 9. You feel nothing around them, because there is nothing there. There's a chilling silence that falls over a room when a soulless being enters. It's not loud or obvious, but it's as real as the air you breathe. You feel it in your bones. A strange numbness, an emotional dead zone. It's like stepping into a room with the lights off, except the darkness is inside them. And it drains the warmth out of you. This is the ultimate sign, the one that ties them all together. Because soullessness isn't just about what they do, it's about what they aren't. They are not present. They are not connected. They are not alive, at least not in the way you understand life. When you look into their eyes, you don't see a reflection of humanity. You see a void, and that void is not silent, it's screaming with emptiness. You want to feel something from them. A flicker of care, a glimmer of empathy, a hint of affection. But there is only nothing. No warmth, no kindness, no spark. It's exhausting because your soul is wired to connect, to be seen, to be heard, to be felt. And when you encounter someone who can't meet you there, you feel unmoored, unseen, unimportant. You wonder if you're imagining things. You question if it's you who's cold or broken. But it's not you. It's them. The soulless don't have the capacity for true connection. They operate on facades, masks, and empty rituals. They mimic emotions they've studied. They parrot phrases they've learned. They simulate care because they understand it as a means to an end. But their souls, they are hollowed out. Jung taught that the soul is the bridge between our inner world and the outside. It's the seat of meaning, depth, and authenticity. When someone lacks that, everything around them feels flat, like color has drained away. You might find yourself feeling drained after conversations. You might notice your energy plummeting around them. You might catch yourself avoiding eye contact, hoping to escape their gaze. That numbness is your soul's warning. It's your internal compass telling you, this is not safe. This is not nourishing. Being around soulless beings is like trying to fill a well that has been dug dry. No matter how much you pour in, love, time, patience, it never fills, because the well isn't empty for lack of water. It's empty because it was never there, and this emptiness can feel deeply lonely. But here's the truth. It's better to be alone than surrounded by soulless people. Because true connection, the kind that feeds your soul, requires both. Souls, you cannot give what they do not have, and no amount of your effort will bring a soul to life where there is none. So, what do? You protect yourself. You build boundaries so the emptiness doesn't consume you. You seek out those who bring light, warmth, and depth. You nurture your own soul until it shines so brightly, it scares away the shadows. Because you deserve to be seen, heard, and loved by those who carry their own soul. You deserve relationships that are more than transactions or facades. You deserve to feel alive in your connections, to be met with presence and authenticity. And if you find that in your family there are soulless beings, remember you are not alone. You have the power to break the cycle. You can choose healing over hurt, light over darkness, soul over emptiness. The journey won't be easy, but every step away from soullessness is a step toward your soul. And that is a journey worth taking. Now that you know the 9 signs to spot soulless beings, especially those who may be hiding in your own family, it's time to ask yourself, who are you allowing to drain your energy? Who makes you question your own worth? And most importantly, who truly seeks you for who you are? Share this video with anyone who needs to wake up to these signs. Leave a comment below about your experiences, because healing starts with awareness and community. And if you want more insights on protecting your soul and building powerful boundaries, subscribe now and hit the notification bell so you never miss a moment of growth. Remember, your soul is your strongest asset. Guard it fiercely, nurture it deeply, and never settle for anything less than the love you deserve.